Good afternoon. My name is Shalonda Griffin, and I am the Community Relations Coordinator for Gift of Life Michigan. Thank you all so much for joining us on this Mindfulness Monday. And I am joined today by Miss Felicia Johnson McGee, Stress and Shame Resilience Coach. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Felicia. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. And today you are going to help us handle our stress. Now, I looked up stress just so that we all have a good definition of what it is. And stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. It can come from any event or thought that makes you feel frustrated, angry, or nervous. Stress is your body's reaction to a challenge or demand. And in short bursts, stress can be positive because it can help us avoid danger or make sure we aren't missing deadlines for work or for school. But if it's left unchecked, it can also contribute to a lot of health problems, such as high blood pressure or heart disease or even premature aging. And we know that 2020 has been a stressful year. Like one for the history books. We are still dealing with this global pandemic. There are people who have lost their jobs, lost income. Maybe they have lost loved ones this year. The holidays are coming and we can't gather like maybe we're used to doing. So, what I'd like to know from you is how can people stay centered? How can we stay grounded during such an unsure time?
Shalada, that you make an excellent point. It's been a very stressful time, and I like to share a few different things that I think would be helpful. I know that this year has been a bit stressful for myself, my husband and I both being affected by COVID. And so learning how to manage yourself. And I always say it's better to work at managing yourself than just your stress, just because if we can manage us, it helps us deal with stress better. And so self care is really important.
Mhm.
And there's a few different things that I do from breathing techniques, mindfulness and silence, as well as journaling or writing, which
Mhm.
are things that I find very helpful in terms of de stressing.
Okay. Those do sound like some good techniques. So with journaling, should you just write about maybe what's going on in your life, what's bothering you, what's causing that stress?
One of the good things about journaling is it is an excellent way to debrief and decompress. Being able to write out what you're feeling, what you're thinking. One, it helps to bring you present to the moment because, of course, one of the simple ways I talk about stress really is just that it is when we feel either unprepared or unsafe. That
Mm.
covers a broad range of things because a lot of times people they think that stress is just around tragic events or shocking events, but a lot of times we can feel stress over a prolonged period just through our daily tasks, like we've been living through this pandemic now for quite a few months. And so being able to journal or write down just how you're feeling, the thoughts that are going through your head allows you to debrief.
Okay. That's a really great tip. That's something I think I might start doing this very week. Now, you also mentioned breathing techniques. Can you tell us more about those breathing techniques?
Well, I've really been looking at breathing quite a bit because breathing can be really helpful. And of course, just throughout the years, we've heard about breathing deep, deep breathing as a way to
Mhm.
calm down. But of course, as research indicates, and the more that the researchers learn about, our nervous system and the way our bodies work, breathing is a practice that can really help us to calm down, help your nervous system to return back to a resting state. And so, the breathing technique that I'm going to talk about here, the bee humming breath or something in yoga, it's more of a heard of in a yoga technique, and it's just a way to calm our breathing, to slow it down. And I'll demonstrate this for you. When we're doing this kind of breathing, usually it's recommended, that you sit comfortably. You don't have to be necessarily in yoga pose, but you want to
Mhm.
sit comfortably, and you want to sit up, support your body. And then what you want to do, it's recommended best that you keep your mouth closed, but your tongue touches the top or the roof of your mouth. And then you would actually put your fingers in your ears just to help, uh, uh, not too hard, but just enough pressure to be comfortable. And then you would cover your eyes and you would inhale through your nose. And then when you exhale, you hum out the breath. Mm. Again,
Oh, that
you
felt
would,
really good.
and I know it seems kind of weird, right? But what's good about this technique, when done properly, is that our body produces a chemical in the nasal passages called nitric oxide.
Mhm.
And what happens is when we breathe through the nose, not through the mouth, but inhale and then we exhale, what happens is that allows more to increase our blood flow.
Okay.
Mhm. And it also, the thing that this breathing technique does is it helps the brain to relax, the nervous system to relax, to calm itself. We have a special nerve in our body called the vagus nerve that kind of runs through by all of our organs. And
Mhm.
when we're able to calm and soothe that nerve, it brings our nervous system back to a resting state.
Wow. Okay. That's great information to have. That felt really good. I'm going to incorporate that into my everyday. Now, I know you mentioned that you can do it while you're doing your yoga. Is there a certain pose you should do while you're doing it, or just whatever feels right for you?
Now, I have observed the pose laying down as well as sitting.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I call YouTube a university. This technique, actually, you can just YouTube and you'll find plenty of videos there that talks about this breathing technique and demonstrates different ways for it to be done. But research has shown, now there's medical evidence-based medical research to show that this type of breathing technique is an excellent way to deal with stress, especially when you practice it on a regular basis.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that you call YouTube university just because there's so
I
many
call it. Yeah.
different things out there for us to learn about. Now, you made a good point because a lot of us are really, especially now with our new virtual world, we're really attached to our smartphones, our tablets, that sort of thing. There are a lot of apps that I see out there that can help people with relaxation and meditation and all of that. Are there any apps that stand out to you that are good apps to help with that sort of thing with our stress?
Well, I do want to share a couple of apps. One app that I just recently came up upon is the Shine app. What I like about the Shine app, particularly, it's a Black owned app, and I think that that is something important to know. Another thing that's been prevalent in this stressful time, besides the pandemic, is issues with racism and injustice,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have become aware of are becoming aware of mental health. But of course, we're looking for something that can be tailored to us, to our specific needs, our specific experiences,
Mhm.
as you know people of color, indigenous, black. And so this app, I found it and I thought it was awesome. There's meditations there. There's information about, there's affirmations. There's information specific to things that affect the BIPOC community. So I think that that's something that was really helpful for me. Um,
Okay.
I, uh, Another app I use is Breathe Ball. And I like this app because it's backed by um, science and medicine,
Mhm.
practitioners that recommend the app. And so there's different types of exercises there, breathing exercises there, cardiac coherence is one of the breathing exercises there. There's different breathing styles that can help you to expand your lung function, that can help you regulate your heart, that can help you sleep better. So I really like that app. It's a stress relief breathing app, exercise app, and it has different ones, and it's all backed information, from a medical and a science perspective.
Okay. So Breathe Ball and the Shine app.
Yes.
Okay. I'll have to remember those and check them out. Now, we know that when it comes to stress, it doesn't discriminate. And it makes me think about our children. A lot of our kids are not in school. They're being taught from home virtually. They're not with their friends, or the routine that they would normally have when they're at school isn't there. And also, the world can be a very scary place. It can be a scary place for us as adults. So I can only imagine how it can be for maybe a 7 to 8 year old, and they're hearing about all of these scary things on the news and things happening in the world. How can we encourage our children to stay centered and relax?
Here's something that I find it's a principle that I govern my life by, in terms of stress and relaxation and just being compassionate to people in challenging times. And I call it listen, observe, and support. Listen, observe, support. So it's really key that our children can let us know, they can honor their feelings and feel free to share what's happening with them. So important for us to be able to listen to our kids. I grew up in a time where, we heard the messaging for children to be seen and not heard.
Hmm.
But it's an outdated model. We have to be able to listen to our children to help them to honor the way that they feel. We have to observe, we have to watch what's going on with our children, pay close attention. Sometimes what's mislabeled as misbehavior is actually stress in children. And we don't realize it. Children, when they are misbehaving, they could be feeling lonely, they could be feeling afraid, they could be feeling isolated. There's so many things. And I know our children aren't in school, so they may not be experiencing interacting with other kids, but still they're using these mediums. And so we have to still be careful for cyberbullying, just all types of things. And so it's super important. And then support. Make sure that your children know that how they feel is okay and that you're there with them, that you're in it, that they are not alone. We all need to know that as adults, even. Everybody needs to know that, but especially children. Children, their brain is still developing. And so they have no way of understanding how to handle stressful events without support from knowledgeable adults to help them through it.
That's really good advice. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's really great. Now, I do have one more question for you. Thanksgiving is coming up in a few days, and Thanksgiving is usually a holiday where people gather. They come together and just enjoy each other's company, the food, things that they are thankful for. But we know that Thanksgiving will look a lot different this Thursday than it did in 2019. And maybe this kind of ties into what you just said about children, but if someone is going to be alone this Thanksgiving, maybe they can't go across country to be with their family. How can we be supportive of them to make sure that they aren't just feeling isolated and just feeling really lonely during this time period?
This is where a network of support really matters. And so, one of the things our family typically does a big event where we come from all across the country. We have an aunt, uncle who bring everybody together in Midland at the H Hotel. I mean, they come from all over, from the
Mhm.
east, the west, the north, and south. We're not able to do that this year. Well, what they're doing is they're doing Zoom. They're actually doing the event via Zoom. We're going to be there. We're going to be able to see each other. Now, here's something I want to say, right? Because everybody does not have some type of way to connect virtually, and we
Right.
often forget that. What about the people who don't have these mediums? One of the things that I think is super important, even though we can't be together like we want, is that find a way to enjoy yourself in some small way, something that makes you happy, something that makes you feel grateful. And this is really sometimes something that we can overlook. But the simplest things that we can do, we can't go out and serve maybe to the needy or the poor, but maybe you can send somebody, write somebody a letter, write a letter to somebody, write a letter to yourself, even thinking about some of the reasons that you're grateful and thankful for still being here during this time. Small things matter.
Very true. That's really good advice. That is very, very good advice. Now, I was so excited to just find out some of your techniques you had to help deal with stress that I did not ask you to tell us more about your role as a stress and shame resilience coach. So I'm going to ask you that now. Tell us, what does that mean? What do you do in your role as a stress and shame resilience coach?
Thank you for asking.
Mhm.
Well, actually, what I do in real life, right, is I help women in midlife who are transitioning from employee to entrepreneur to understand mental overdrive and identify emotional exhaustion, so that they can restore a feeling of calm and safety to their bodies using my signature de-stressing techniques.
Okay. That sounds like
Mhm.
a really cool and rewarding job to have. Can you share with us maybe what would be one factor that you would say is mental exhaustion? Just something to look out for.
Um, that feeling, and people always say, "Man, I'm tired," right? You hear it all the time, "I'm tired, I'm tired." And sometimes they don't even realize why they're tired, because they're like, "Well, I haven't really been doing anything, or I haven't been doing anything that appears to be physically exerting." But if you notice that, and this is something I think right now is really key, because we have been inundated, right, with media, with the media, with the election, with the racial injustice, with racism, with the pandemic, right?
Mhm. Right.
In April, when my husband became ill with COVID, I mean, it was nothing for me to sign on to my news feed and see at least three people that I was peripherally connected to that passed away, right?
Right.
And so we don't realize that all of this absorption of what's happening around us, that feeling where you just feel like, oh, I'm just tired. You've been hearing people say it, I'm exhausted, I'm tired. That feeling of tiredness, and it's not about sleep, right?
Hmm.
Sleep is a way for your body to go into rest and refresh itself so you can get up and function the next day. But people are waking up every day and they are exhausted. They don't feel any energy. They can't, it feels like life is difficult to manage. I can't remember what I'm doing, from moment to moment. Those are signs. They feel irritable. You feel irritable and just like out of sorts. Those are often signs that that you are in mental overdrive.
Okay. Those are good things to look out for. Would you also, I know how you talked about you would log on when your husband was dealing with, how is your husband, by the way? Let me
He
ask you
is
that.
he actually is recovering well.
Oh, good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned that you would log on and you would see 3 people who you knew personally who were dealing with COVID. Should we not be we shouldn't be afraid to log off. Like maybe if social media is too much for us, like for instance, I know I just put a pause on my social media just because
Yeah.
it was becoming a lot. Uh,
Yes.
I know that for some people that's how they stay connected, but we also probably shouldn't be afraid to just log off every once in a while.
Definitely. It is perfectly okay. And actually, it is an act of self compassion to give yourself a break.
Mm,
Our brains and our nervous system can only absorb so much information until it starts to react. And when we're stressed, what we don't realize, because we're not just physical beings and mental emotional beings, we're chemical beings.
mhm,
So when we're stressed, my simple explanation is we feel unprepared, unready, unsafe for what's happening. Our body gives off chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol to keep us in this state of saying, okay, I need to protect myself. I need to keep myself safe. It is okay to step back, to step away, to disconnect or detach, to give yourself space to recover. Because that's what happens when you go to sleep at night. When you
mm,
go to sleep at night, all the things in your brain, your brain takes on a sorting process to say, okay, let's put this here, let's put this there, so that your body can start to experience rest and being a resting state, so it can prepare itself to run again when you wake up. And so it's the same thing in our waking life. If we don't give ourselves an opportunity to debrief, to decompress, to even detach,
mhm,
what happens is we keep those chemicals going in our body, and those chemicals over a prolonged period of time can cause your physical self to break down, your immunity, your heart, your blood pressure going up, insulin in your body begins to
mhm.
overproduce. All those things happen.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Anything specific?
You know what? I am so grateful to have been here, to have this opportunity to share. And I just want to encourage people to uh, use the courage to be compassionate to themselves. We don't realize how much compassion, self compassion, can be healing to our bodies, and to our minds and just to our overall self. And when you're compassionate to yourself, when you're kind to yourself, it empowers you to offer the same thing to others.
That is great advice. Now, how can we get in contact with you? If we want to learn more about what it is you do and maybe find out more of the techniques that you encourage, how can we find you?
Well, you can find me at my Phases of Grace Facebook page. There, you can get in contact with me. I have a number there. I have a website there, and you can even message me there, and I'll be more than happy to facilitate and assist in any way that I can. Another thing that's going to be happening in 2021, I am launching a virtual stress and shame resilience program to help
Oh,
people.
awesome.
That tool is going to be coming in the first quarter of 2021. And so I'll definitely have the updates and the information there on my Facebook page.
All right. I will keep my eyes open. I cannot wait to learn more about it. Felicia, you are delightful. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been our Mindful Monday. I hope that our audience has learned some techniques to help them relax and also to help them get through the rest of this year. Just looking at some of the comments here, we have one from Patricia Sims who says, "Thanks for getting this information out to the masses, Felicia." And then there's also one from Jean. Thank you so much. I've learned some new things. So you have been great. Thank you so very much, Felicia. We appreciate you being here today.
It was my pleasure. Thank
Uh
you.
huh. Thank you.